Yes, this is a really exciting time for improving outcomes for patients with blood cancer, whether it's through new drugs, cellular therapies, or improved transplant options. And what we've recognized in the last few years through the TAP, the HemOnc Trials Acceleration Programme, and more recently the impact of the UK's Transplant Trial Network, is that by investing in a network of research nurses and empowering investigators, we can really drive very impactful studies which are published at a high level, and also create access to new therapies for patients. So this is a really lovely model. The challenge, of course, is that philanthropic support is even more limited, not because of a lack of desire to invest, but because the COVID-19 pandemic has had a devastating impact on finances of many of our great charities. So what we're going to be delivering, and we've already set up, is a sort of academically directed clinical trial delivery vehicle, which we're calling ACT, Accelerating Clinical Trials, and that's going to deliver a mixed portfolio of industry-sponsored trials and academic investigator trials, all prioritized by clinicians who sit in a matching charity called DIDACT. So the beauty of this model, which we worked on very carefully, is that it becomes financially sustainable after year 3. And importantly, it funds these really precious networks. And it also empowers UK investigators to take proposals to the matching charity called DIDACT to see whether they have the support of the networks and the relevant organizations that prioritize clinical trials, and for the prioritized studies to deliver them in an accelerated manner through these networks. So we're going to move, we hope, out of this permanent funding crisis to a sustainable model. In fact, we believe that we'll be generating a surplus beyond year 3. DIDACT's other function, in addition to sponsoring academic trials, is to direct reinvestment of that financial surplus back towards patients, back towards more research nurses, towards data managers or supporting clinical trials. And finally, the other area of deficit, which we hope to contribute to fixing, is training the next generation of trialists and training our brilliant research nurses. So DIDACT will be running training programs. So this is a really quite an innovative model. It's got the patient at its heart. It's prioritizing academically supported trials, but it's moving towards a financially sustainable model in response to changing funding environment. It's been really warmly received by government, by folks such as Sir John Dell, NIHR, and most importantly by not only the UK HemOnc and transplant community, but by our patients, who are really desperate to see these new drugs through trials. They don't mind whether it's an industry-sponsored trial or academic trial, but they want a sustainable model. And when they speak to me about trials, they say, and how are you training the next generation? Well, we wish this to be an empowering model that will create a sustainable footing for clinical trials. It's going to work, of course, in concert with the work of other brilliant trials units in the UK. So this is just part of the environment. We hope that it's a valuable new addition in terms of capacity, speed, and empowering the next generation. I think it's very exciting that gifted UK investigators in the area of new molecule therapy in acute myeloid leukemia or lymphoma or myeloproliferative disease can actually have a conversation with pharma about the opportunity to accelerate delivery of an industry-sponsored trial. And I also think that the UK community has enormous strength, particularly in cellular therapy and transplant. And I think there's an opportunity to actually deliver both academic and industry-sponsored trials in cellular therapy. We wish the outputs of the trials to be abstracts and to be papers that are published in high-impact journals, but a very large part of this, we hope, is through the support of so many colleagues in establishing this. It's not been easy, is that it is a way of nurturing and nourishing the growing interest in transplant trials and providing secure and sustainable resource. We've learned a lot during COVID. One of the most inspiring examples of trial delivery was the recovery trial. And that worked because there was a funded network of nurses across the country, facilitatory hub, and that led to delivery sequentially of globally significant data. So it just proves the model, which is you fund these precious research nurses, create that capacity, empower investigators through a nimble delivery vehicle, but recognizing that access to new therapies can be through industry-sponsored trials, just like academic IITs, and off you go. So we've really been inspired by the fact that Sir Martin Landray, who led Recovery, has set up a very similar model called PROTAS. And I think that there's a number of groups in Europe who are thinking similarly. We've been delivering trials using pretty much the same model for about 40 years, and it's probably time for some new thinking.